Hey friends, before we dive into this week's episode, just a heads up. Our podcast talks about suicide, sexual abuse, and other trauma, and some of what you hear may be triggering, so please listen with care. This is The Survivors, real stories, raw conversations, and the truth about what it means to keep going after the hardest things. We're so glad you're here. Let's keep surviving together. So is it too premature to say Happy Mother's Day? Do you think is it too soon?
No. I mean, it's coming up, so it's a day sometimes.
It's a day. It's appropriate. We are days away from Mother's Day. And I know for a lot of reasons that it does not look the same for everybody. It just doesn't. You think about things like Valentine's Day and you think about the holiday season and you realize that, there's all this hype for all these holidays for the majority of people who experience them in a similar way. And then there's a whole group of people out there who have a very different experience. And Mother's Day is one of them. And it holds so many different emotions for so many different people, depending on who you are and how you celebrate the day and all those moving parts. And, maybe you've lost your mom and that makes the day hard. Or, maybe you've been trying to have children and start a family and you want to be a mom and you're having fertility issues and that's a struggle. Or like you, which is what we're going to talk about today, maybe you don't have a good relationship with your mom and that makes the day a tricky one. So you and I have very, very diametrically opposite experiences with our moms and those relationships. And so both of those experiences are real and both of them deserve their own space. And so today's the day. Today is no better day than right here and now to talk about that. Are you up for that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So for me and anyone who heard our episodes, we had a 2-part episode last month with my mom. You know that I have a very close relationship. I'm very, very blessed that my mom is alive and well, and she and I are very, very much a part of each other's day-to-day lives. And for that, I'm extremely grateful. And, it's due in part because of how hard we've worked together, the trauma that's bonded us together, the kind of a human she is. But for you, it's very, very different. It's a very different experience. And we're rolling into Mother's Day weekend. And I want to know what that's like for you. Because you're coming at it from two different perspectives. You're coming at it, you are a mom. You have 2 amazing kids. So you have that part of Mother's Day that is full on celebrate you and you get to be with your children. But there's a hole there. There's a hole there where your relationship with your mom used to be. What is that? What is that like for you? Like, do you want to even just give backstory and first tell what it is like?
Well, so right now we are no contact. The longest period of time I've gone without speaking to my mother was I want to say about 4 years. That was back in 2016. In that time frame between 2015 and 2016 and, 4 years there. There's been periods of time where I didn't, I had to cut my mom out of my life. But it made it easier during that time, that 4-year period, because we had moved to Virginia. And, so there wasn't that family contact at all.
Because she was in Utah with you.
Yeah, my whole family lives in Utah. Or I should say the vast majority of my family lives in Utah. And, my mom and I have had a very tumultuous, I can never say that word correctly.
You want me to say it for you?
Thank you.
I got it. Tumultuous.
Thank you. That word. Relationship since I was a kid. And I see the relationship you have with your mom. I see the relationship you have with your daughters. Or other women where they're best friends with their moms. I know that my sister has that relationship with her daughter where they're best friends. And, Kirsten's, we're still in that phase where you know what I mean? she's 14 and I'm still her mom. Like my sister and her daughter's in her 20s now. So it kind of, I think, changes as your children get older a little bit.
Oh, well, it does. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm the mom of a 20, almost 26 and almost 29-year-old, and it very much becomes a different dynamic. They're on their own, and you're not there in the capacity of the person who day to day takes care of them and everything in their world. They are their own people, and then you become friends. In a lot of cases, you become friends, and that's.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm very, very blessed that my two daughters and my mom are my best friends in the world. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm pretty sure Kirsten and I will have that. I mean, she comes to me with everything, and we have a very close relationship. I realized very early on that my relationship with my mother in my teenage years, especially, I knew that was not a safe relationship.
What
And
do you
then
mean? What do you mean by safe?
I couldn't trust her with private information.
Okay.
Because she would either use it against me or she would share it with my siblings or other people.
I think it's worth mentioning because not everyone knows your story. Not everyone knows my story, and your background in particular is very detailed. But I think it's worth mentioning. Can you just, for 2 seconds, for the sake of context, if anyone's listening and they're new, can you explain the family that you came from?
I was from the FLDS polygamous cult, the Fundamentalist Latter-day Saints, a.k.a. Warren Jeffs. He's my uncle. I had 3 mothers growing up. I'm one of 20 children in my household. My mothers were full-blooded sisters. My dad's first wife and my mom, who's the second wife, they were, full-blooded sisters, which brought a lot of
Drama.
chaos and drama. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the third wife was brought in, and she was actually only 16 when she was assigned to my dad. And my grandfather was the prophet, so he had to take on another wife. You don't say no to another wife. So, I've realized now, and looking back, that all my brothers, the vast majority of my brothers have really good, tight-knit, close relationships, but the women in my family do not.
So you mean they are tight with each other, like the brothers themselves? Okay, I see.
Yes. The brothers have a very tight-knit, close relationship, but the sisters do not. And it's because we did not.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's really weird. And I think it's because we did not have a good example. We were not modeled having close, safe relationships with other females. The mothers were always in competition with each other.
Yeah, I know you've said that a lot in the past.
Right. And so it's just very interesting. I know that, and two, the reason that my relationship with my mom is very complex is that she has the capacity to be a good mother to certain children.
Okay.
That's where I had to draw the boundary, because I could see that she had the capacity to be a good mother and be a good supportive, and supportive and loving and caring, but to select children. And I was not one of those.
What was that like? Like, when did that dawn on you? Was that something that was just a slow burn, or was it a certain issue or situation that happened that kind of revealed that to you?
I think it was just over time that I realized it, and I would watch her interact with my siblings and me, and I was like, oh. And especially after I had children. That's when it became abundantly clear, is after I had children. Because then I knew, like, having children, and I was like, okay, so this, you know what I mean? It was just something that snapped in me, and I was really a lot more aware after having children, and I would watch her be and do and model with my siblings and even children from Susan that were biologically my mother's children, but she treats them better than her own biological children. I don't know what it is for, and I don't want to speak for my sister Jerusha, but I do want to say that there's something about me and my sister Jerusha. So we are children number 3 and 4 for her, for my mom of her 6 children. And then she had my baby sister when I was 13 and Jerusha was 15. So big, huge gap there.
Mhm.
But the difference in the way that she is with Shaylin versus the way she is with me and Jerusha, vastly different.
So Shaylin was the baby.
Shaylin's the baby.
Okay.
Yeah. And Shaylin gets all the love, all the care, all the mothering still. And Shaylin's in her 20s now. And to see her get the kind of love and adoration and care and concern, it hurts. It really does.
How could it not hurt? I want to ask you a question. And I know obviously this whole episode is focused on Mother's Day and how Mother's Day can be experienced in so many different ways. And this is your backstory of why your relationship is the way it is with your mom, which is so important to this conversation. But I'm curious, have you ever talked about this with your mom?
Mm-hmm.
What was
she gaslights me and tells me it's not true.
Okay.
But also, I have brought up to her that she treats Jenny, who is Susan's daughter. Jenny and my mom have a very, very close relationship. And I brought that up to her. I was like, why do you put Jenny on a pedestal? Why do you treat Jenny so much better than you do your own biological daughters?
Yeah.
And her response was, well, Jenny has always treated me with kindness and respect. And because I wasn't mothering her day to day, there isn't that, I forget the words that she used, but basically there wasn't that friction that she had with Jerusha and I. I mean, you have friction with your teenage daughters, with your teenagers, females or males. There's just friction as being a parent.
Right.
But because there was no friction with Jenny, but that I've realized again that was Jenny's survival mechanism. That's how Jenny survived, by being a chronic people pleaser, never going against the grain, always doing what the parents wanted.
Mm-hmm.
That was her survival. I'm not built that way. I always went against the grain. I always stood up for myself. I always spoke out. And, Jerusha's got her own issues that she deals with, so she wasn't exactly easy, but we were just normal teenagers. But to see her treat Jenny and Shaylin so much better than she treats us, I'll tell you what, and even Jenny's children. Do you know that she treats Jenny's children better than she treats my own?
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's got to be so hard for you.
Yeah, and she has babysat my children. I can count on one hand how many times she's babysat my children. And she has watched Jenny's children for a week at a time while Jenny went on vacation she had 3 kids. And it's just, I don't know, that's where I can't forgive. I can forgive my mother for all the shit that happened when I was a kid, because she was doing the best that she could under the circumstances and being in an incredibly toxic, chaotic environment in a polygamous situation. What I can't forgive her for is her continued denial and treatment of me as an adult, and making her aware of that, and her actually choosing not to treat me with the same kind of love and respect that she does Jenny and Shaylin.
Well, that's fair. I mean, you're being treated differently, so there's no question that that's going to have a severe impact on your relationship with your mom. So, okay, now everybody has heard, we've all heard the backstory. Now we understand why the dynamic between you and your mom exists the way that it does. So what comes up for you? Like, let's put aside you being the mom celebrating your own motherhood on Mother's Day, because we know that your son and daughter absolutely adore you, and we know, I've met them and I know how they feel about their mom. So the sun rises and sets on you. But let's put that aside for a second. And let's talk about what comes up for you on Mother's Day as someone who is no contact with your mom. Like, do you grieve that? Is it sad? Does it still affect you?
I think about her. Every holiday, it doesn't matter what holiday it is always 50-50 sad, grieving, and thankful. Because every holiday growing up we always got together and it was chaotic and beautiful, but also fun. And now it's so different when it's just me and George and the kids. It's so quiet. Yeah, every holiday, doesn't matter what it is, 50-50 grieving and 50-50 thankful. I don't know how not to exist in that world of grieving and being thankful.
Well, it's because, I mean, your mom, and I would imagine that this maybe makes it even more challenging. Like, there are a lot of people out there who on Mother's Day or on Father's Day have lost that parent. Like, for instance, this is going to be a really hard Mother's Day for my family because only a few months ago, we lost my mother-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
And we were all, I mean, as close as I am with my mom, I considered myself so lucky to have two moms. I mean, my mother-in-law was my mother-in-law from the time I was 17 until a couple of months ago, and as much a mother to me as my own mother. And so that loss, that's a hard one. That's going to be a really hard one. So she passed away. She's gone. And, on Father's Day, I have those same sadnesses for my own father, but this is different. This is, I feel like, of course, there's a ton of this kind of situation in the world where parent and child are not close, and they're both alive and well, but they're not in each other's lives. It's just not as common, potentially.
Well, actually, this whole no contact, low contact is a trending topic. Actually,
it's that happening. I know.
Yeah, and so it's interesting that. So for my dad's been gone for 3 years now. He passed away from cancer. Father's Day doesn't hit me the same way. It's all it's like losing somebody by death is easier than losing somebody that is actively choosing, who is still alive and actively choosing to cut you out of their life.
Well, right. That's what I mean. That's why I'm saying it's one thing when someone passes away. That's beyond anyone's control. There is right, exactly. There's no choice. But in this case, and I know no contact is significantly more mainstream as a topic and a situation now than it ever was. I feel like it might not be as common as, death and divorce, but it's certainly up there. I mean, that's what I'm focused on, is how does that even feel like that? It has to be worse, I think, in some ways, where you're like, but they're there.
Mm-hmm.
They're there.
And the big, me, it's a torture where I want to call her. I want to have that relationship with her. I just know it's not possible. And what is the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. And I did that for years, and I realized the final straw for me was a year ago.
Hey, it's Lisa Sugarman, co-host of The Survivors and founder of the HelpHUB. If you're listening right now and you're not okay, if you're feeling overwhelmed, stuck, or like you're carrying more than you can handle, please know you don't have to go through it alone. You can call or text 988 or chat online at 988lifeline.org to connect with trained counselors like me who are there to listen and support you in the moment. Reaching out is a brave first step, and you owe it to yourself. Because your life matters, your story matters, and help is always just 3 numbers away.
When Monroe passed away, for those of you that are listening, I've lost 5 brothers to suicide. And the most recent one was in March of 2025, Monroe. And this was actually, of the 5, this was the first one that was biologically my mother's child. And it hit her differently, even though she said the others were the same, but we could all see it hit her differently. But I did fly, I was living in Virginia, and, my relationship with my mom was okay at the time. And what do it's just what I do. I handled the funeral arrangements. I flew out there. I handled everything. I mean, the morning after the news, I was told, I was, the phone making funeral arrangements. I handled everything. And I flew out to Utah, and I took care of my mom for 2 solid weeks, completely abandoning myself and my needs to where I came home and I crashed and I slept for 3 days straight. I did not leave my bedroom for 7 days, and I ended up with a kidney infection
Oh, wow.
because I was not taking care of myself. And, partway through the trip, I was telling Jenny, I'm like, Jenny, I can't keep up with her. She won't stop. She's hosting parties. She's having people over. She's having, it was insane. It was absolute insanity. I was like, Jenny, I am gonna snap. Having already had a mental breakdown after my dad died from handling too many funerals too close together, and I could feel another one coming on. It's called a TIA.
Uh-huh.
And I finally texted Jenny, and I said, Jenny, because my mom wouldn't listen to me. And when I asked her, I said, Mom, can we please slow down? Can we please stop going and seeing these people doing this, doing that? I can't. I need to rest. And you do too. But she was trying to outrun her grief.
Yeah.
And so Jenny
we all know that doesn't work.
Yeah. And so Jenny came over the next day and was like, look, you're going to break Natasha if you don't knock it off. So we're done with these dinner parties. We're done doing all this stuff. You got to stop. And so she listened to Jenny, but I realized that I completely abandoned myself and my needs for my mother. And it was not enough.
Do you think that she was pissed at you because the reason why Ginny told her to slow down was because of you?
It's possible.
Like, I just wondered if she harbored that and it was like, well, Natasha's the one who, isn't keeping up, or whatever it would be she would think about that.
Well, I know that, in conversations with Jenny afterwards, or my aunts, they, Mom sung all my praises. Oh, Natasha handled everything. She did an amazing job. I couldn't have done it without her. She sung all my praises, but then, weeks and months went by. I continued to check on her and everything. And then, she called me one day to vent about something, and she seriously just talked about her and her life for a solid 45 minutes and never once asked me about me or my children.
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard.
Yeah. And then, at the point in which the whole no contact this time has occurred is when I started this podcast with you.
Yeah.
When, I started speaking my truth about what I endured as a child, and that painted my mother in a negative light. And so I have not heard from my since that, or anyone in my family for that matter, since these episodes have gone live.
Yeah, and I feel horrible about that. I just feel such sadness for you that was the response that you got, because you are entitled to share your story and your truth, and you have been victimized in so many different ways. Like, I know you mentioned that you lost 5 brothers to suicide. What people may or may not know is that you were also the victim of sexual abuse by your brother. You've had a lot of domestic abuse from siblings and also your mom. And so you've had your own multiple suicide attempts. So you have been through it. You have been through it. And to not respect your ability to share your own story and not support that, just makes me sad. It just makes me sad that you aren't getting what you deserve to be getting from your family.
Well, there's a part of me that when I realized, wow, for the first time, I was actually able to openly speak about what happened to me and be honest about it. And I was met with that, and with that silence, where, there's other people in my life, cousins or friends or whatever, that have come to me and said, oh my God, I had no idea that you were dealing with all this for so many years. Thank you for having the courage to speak about it. It just cemented the realization that I no longer have what I call an origin family.
Uh-huh.
And they're exactly that. They're my origin. I have my creation family with George and the kids, and that's what I focus on. And I know with time, it will get easier. And, people are like, oh, well, you can reconnect yet. And it's like, again,
But
it's the
it's not up to
insanity.
you.
It's,
It's
yeah,
not just up to you, though. It's not.
right. And I'm done doing all the work to keep a relationship alive. You know what I mean? When you really take a step back and look at it and go, okay, if I stop doing all the work to keep the relationships alive, especially moving across the country, the relationships die. And so I just wasn't willing to do that anymore, and I know that I have to model for my children the kind of, by me continuing to accept that kind of behavior from my family, I'm not modeling anything good for my children. That's, I have to show them what respect looks like and respect for myself. You know what I mean? And I look at the way, when we recorded those episodes with your mom and to see your interaction with you two, it warms my heart. It really does to see that beautiful, amazing love that you two have. It gives me hope that I will have that. And I do have that with my children.
Mhm.
And, I've said it before, but I I will go to the ends of the earth to stop the toxic family cycles that have gone on for generations within my family.
And you're doing that. And you should celebrate that. I hope that you celebrate that. And I know that your kids are a little too young to know everything about your past. I know that, like, bit by bit, little things have come out. You've disclosed certain things, but there's an awful lot more to go. And over time, of course, they'll learn the whole truth. But they know. They know that they have a mother and a father who unconditionally loves and supports them in every way. And it sucks that you didn't have that in the way that you should have, that you deserve to have that. And it sucks that you have this no contact with your mom. For the record, my mother, I believe, has officially adopted you. For the record, she loves you. So, I mean,
I'm honored.
well, she does. She adores you. But the point is that, it's hard because I appreciate what you're saying about my relationship with my mom, and I know that to be true because it's my relationship with my mom, and I'm grateful for that every second of every day of my life, and obviously the one that I have with my own children as well. But it doesn't change the fact that I know what yours is, and I feel badly about that. I hate that is your experience. And I know that there are so many people who are going to listen to this conversation and say, "Oh, Jesus Christ!" Like, so me too, me too, me too. Like I don't have contact, or I don't have and even if you do have contact, you may not have the relationship that you want with your kids or with your parent or even with your spouse. This doesn't just extend to Mother's Day; it extends to all
All the
relationships,
days. Yeah.
all the days. Yep, and all the different types of relationships that we have.
There is a bit of information that I do feel is pertinent. I listen to a lot of podcasts and read a lot of, I probably should have been a psychology major, but right now, a lot of the leading psychology experts say that the health of a relationship between a parent and a child is solely on the parent because of the power dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have a healthy relation, it is, solely on the parent. And a child can go no contact with a parent, but when a parent goes no contact with a child, even into adulthood, it becomes abandonment.
That's interesting. That's very interesting and very accurate too. I mean, look, when you're talking about children, young children, teenage children, even high school, college age children who aren't fully developed yet emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, all those parts that make us human, you can't expect a child to make good, rational decisions about their interactions, about their behavior, all those things. But an adult damn well better know better. A parent knows better. And, we sign on for parenthood not expecting that there aren't going to be any obstacles along the way. There's going to be challenge and drama and heartache and disappointment and so much of what I think we all envision about parenthood when we start out is not what parenthood ends up being when we're in the thick of it. And a lot of it
Mhm.
is all of those, beautiful, wonderful, warm moments. And a lot of it isn't. And you have had a disproportionate amount of those moments that are not good moments, are not healthy and and enriching moments. And what you're doing is so actively breaking that cycle with your kids that yes, you can grieve what you don't have with your mom, but hopefully there's some consolation in what you're building with your own children. And
There
that
is.
I hope so. I hope so, because I've seen that relationship in action with you and your kids, especially with you and your daughter, and it's beautiful. It's just the kind that warms your heart. So, what will Mother's Day look like for you? What will it look like for you?
Well, George always makes me lemon ricotta pancakes with
Oh,
a berry
George.
compote for breakfast,
He's so Martha
and
Stewart.
he is. Yeah, him and the kids make me breakfast in bed, and then I just leave it up to them however that looks. I try
Mhm,
not to have any expectations, but that yeah, they always cook me breakfast and dinner, and we just kind of hang out and spend time together as a family, and again, it comes down to it's not chaotic, and I like that there's no expectations, because when I lived in Utah before and growing up, it always had to be this big grand gesture and all the things, because it's just how it was.
mhm.
And so I like that our holidays are more chill,
Yeah.
and we're just allowed to be, and it's not always a big production in that too. So, and this Mother's Day, and I read a quote recently, and it said something along the lines of, if I could go back in time, I would mother my mother the way mother my daughter, and
Mm,
hopefully love her and cherish her in a way that I wouldn't have to spend my lifetime healing from her, because I know that she didn't get the love and care that she deserved. That's how I guess in my mind I try to rationalize it, because I do remember my mom telling me that she knew at a very young age, as young as 4 or 5 years old, that her mother didn't like her. And
what a hard thing for a 4 or 5-year-old to internalize and
right.
believe.
Mhm. And I was very fortunate that, I knew that there's a big age gap between me and my little brother Ward, and so I was my mom's last, what she thought was gonna be her last, and so I do have some very fond memories with her when I was very young, and again, I know she's capable of being a good mother.
Mhm.
She just didn't continue that on, and so, yeah, I
Well,
just
I think that, so much of what we talk about is surviving all different types of things. And in this case, like surviving, sometimes it just means holding on to the things that you have that are the good things and prioritizing those things. And it means letting go of the things that you have to let go of and creating boundaries and making sure that your needs are met, and that's what you're doing.
Mhm,
And you're allowing your heart to be filled up with the things that you have control over, that mean the most to you. And I think that's the essence of what we should all be doing for ourselves, is to prioritize what's important and lean into those things. And so you
mhm.
get to lean into the pancakes and the compote very hard on Sunday.
Yeah, I love my mother. I do. I will never not love her. That is hardwired DNA, into us as children.
Mhm, mhm,
It doesn't matter, kids that are absolutely treated far worse than I ever was still love their mothers. You just have to choose to love them from afar to protect yourself,
mhm.
and that's okay. If that's what you have to do on Mother's Day or any holiday for any parent, or, if you have to love somebody from afar to protect yourself, that is 100% okay. And you don't have to beat yourself up for feeling that way.
Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
protecting your peace is the most important thing for you
Absolutely.
as an individual.
I couldn't agree more. So to you, my beautiful friend, I say happy early Mother's Day to you. And I hope that it is a day for you and for everybody else out there who is celebrating their own motherhood or a relationship with their mother, or in any way, shape, or form acknowledging the day. I hope it's what it needs to be for you to be special. So with that, we'll wrap it and we'll come back next week, because it's also Mental Health Awareness Month and we have a lot to talk about. So we'll meet back here next Wednesday and start digging in.
Happy Mother's Day out there.
Happy Mother's Day. Keep surviving, friends.
Thanks so much for listening and for being part of the survivors community. No matter where you are in your story, you're not alone, and you're definitely not broken. Healing takes time, and it looks different for everyone. The fact that you're still here and still trying means you're already doing the hard work. If something in today's conversation resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it too. That's how we keep these conversations going and remind each other that there's always hope.
And if you or someone you know is struggling, please remember, help is always out there. You can call or text 988 anytime to reach a trained crisis counselor like me. And for more mental health resources, tools, treatment options, and content to support your mental health, visit thehelphub.co. We're so grateful you're part of the Survivors family, and we'll be back next week with another honest conversation about life after the hardest things. Until then, take care of yourself and your people, and keep surviving.